So this experience starts off on a Ferris wheel. I'm on a small Ferris wheel and I'm on the only seat in the Ferris wheel. And the Ferris wheel is picking up speed and it's starting to rotate very fast. And I eventually used this rotation, this feeling of, vertigo or whatever to shoot into outer space. So I went up into outer space and I stopped just outside Earth's atmosphere to calm myself to figure out what I want to do next. Because you can use the state of being, even in a dream, for something meaningful. Because in a dream, it's just mostly a blank canvas, and it's not going to affect all of that intuitive input that you may get in the state of being. Whereas atmospheric dream imagery just kind of takes over and distorts everything. Well, in space, you can see a lot of meaningful stuff, even in a dream. So I decided this time to move rapidly in one direction. It's kind of a jump, a very far jump from where you are to another spot, and you don't really know where you're jumping to. This usually has a pretty cool effect. I find spatially moving through space, like in a gradual gradient fashion, in a dream and in an astral projection to be very tiresome, because when I'm astral projecting in space, I have to latch on to space bodies. It's very hard to move gradually through space. Like if I were to approach a star, for instance, the only way for me to get to that star is to jump really close to it to a point that it fills my entire peripheral vision. And then I'd have to turn around from that star, look around for planets or something, and then I'd have to jump to those planets to be able to observe them and survey them. And I can't, it's really difficult to spatially move between these two things, like in a controlled way, at least for me. And I have this very jumpy behavior that allows me to get around quickly, but it's still very tiresome because I'm often finding binary star systems and dead planets. Well, they could be moons, but they're dead nonetheless. They don't have life, they don't have any structures. That's usually what it is when I go and explore space, so I usually do these things instead. Observing the physical universe at a macroscopic level, or jumping to specific idents, or jumping to an unknown location in front of me, just doing like a random jump. So that's what I did this time, a random jump. And I started flying over this water thing. It was like an ocean, but it was perfectly calm, and it was in outer space. So I'm flying around this flat surface, or flat threshold where this water is below me, to figure out where this starts and begins, or at least ends. So I was looking for the end of this, and I eventually came across a wave. So this wave was static, it was unchanging, and I changed my direction and started to follow this wave. And at the end of the wave, there was another surface, like a water surface or a water threshold where this ocean began. Because I actually swooped into this body of water to check it out, to see what it is. And it felt like astral projecting through an ocean that's very calm. So that's why I'm calling it water. And I found at the end of this wave that there was another threshold of water just adjacent to the threshold that I was at. It's like this ocean just stopped at a point and then turned 90 degrees and went upwards in front of me. And this was very interesting. So I went through this wall of water and I saw a Boeing plane. It was all messed up. And I looked at the side of the Boeing plane to try to identify it. And I saw this abstract light blue and light red art on it. So it had all these curls and different shapes and stuff to try to make it look fancy. And then I flew around a bit more. I did another jump and I ended up in a place that I've been before, where there's this thing launching like these little nuclear bombs at me they were latching onto me if I was in range. And this is a weird outer space setting that doesn't make any sense. And that was the end of that dream. So this certainly sounds like some sort of Bermuda Triangle thing. Unfortunately, it makes absolutely no sense because I looked up the Boeing to see what they look like. The Boeing plane models, a bunch of them, and none of them have this sort of abstract artwork on it. I mean, they have the red and blue lines along them, but those colors were too dark. And I actually saw artwork on this plane. And also, water doesn't coagulate like that in space. It boils and vaporizes or something like that. So that was my crazy dream. See you next time.